So this is the OnePlus 10 Pro, and I'll be honest, this is my first OnePlus phone, so I've never had any of the other previous OnePlus phones, so I understand the history that OnePlus has and the legacy, I guess it has, being a flagship killer, and now retailing for $900, it's not really a flagship killer, it's more of just a flagship phone for that price. But I will tell you that I bought this on Amazon and I got the whole Alexa Showcase 8 or whatever it's called, Alexa Show 8 for free with the bundle. So for a total of $900, I got the phone and the Alexa Show 8. But I ended up deciding to return the Alexa Show 8 because I wasn't a huge fan of Alexa. So I didn't realize that what they did, at least what Amazon did, was that they reduced the price of the phone to $780 and then still charged me $120 for the Alexa Show 8. So I got the phone for a cheaper price in a way, and by returning the Alexa Show 8, I got my $120 back, but they didn't charge me an extra $120 for returning the Alexa Show 8. They just kept the phone at the $780 price. So technically, I got this phone for just under $800, brand new. So for that price, I honestly think that's a pretty good deal. So let's talk about it. As far as hardware and design, honestly, I'm a big fan of this device. It's lightweight, it's comfortable in the hand, it's thin. You know, it just feels like a good, solid phone. It doesn't feel super heavy, also doesn't feel super cheap and lightweight. It feels like a premium device in my opinion. It also looks pretty premium. It's got a matte back here, but this is in the Emerald Forest colorway, which I'm a fan of. I like a good green. It does suck though that there only is 2 colorways right now as far as the US, so just black or green. But in my opinion, it doesn't really matter because the back is very slippery and the sides are glossy, so you're better off using a case to add some grippiness to it. And the camera bump, although it may not be super original, I still think it looks really nice. And the name brand that they have on there with Hasselblad, it doesn't bother me at all. One, I get over it, and 2, my case covers it up, so no big deal there. As far as buttons and ports here, you have USB-C at the bottom. You also have your SIM card slot, as well as one firing speaker at the bottom. You have the other one at the top near the earpiece for a dual firing system. We'll say that the bottom one is a bit louder, so if you cover it up by accident, you will notice it. But overall, it's a pretty good, decent system. The one time my Bluetooth adapter in my car wasn't working. This has no headphone jack. I also had no adapter with me, so I had to use the speakers on the phone on my way home to listen to music. And I was able to jam out. I enjoyed it for the most part. And I will say I do like that the volume rocker and the power button are on the opposite sides. Just makes it a little bit easier to distinguish which one you're clicking on when you're not looking at your phone. And also that mute switch button or that slider, the switcher, whatever it's called. It's fantastic. I love it. I wish more phones had this so you can easily switch your phone in different sound modes to ring, to vibrate, then mute. It's just so convenient and so easy. I absolutely love it. The phone itself doesn't have an actual IP rating, but I've been using it in the shower just like in the corner. So I'm not really submerging it or putting it under water, but it's getting splashed every now and then. So it's been fine so far. So hopefully, fingers crossed that nothing really happens in the future. And as far as the display, it is a 6.7-inch 1440p 120Hz AMOLED display. So honestly, it's a great display. The only complaint I have is the aspect ratio. Since it is a little bit thinner, maybe it's not a complaint, but there's a pro and a con to it. So the pro, it makes it very comfortable to hold in the hand. The con is that I feel like there is ever so slightly bigger black bars depending on the aspect ratio of the video. So if it's like a 16:9, I'll see a little bit more black bars on this phone than I would see on a different phone that's a more wider aspect ratio. So that's the only downside about it, but it is a curved display as well. So again, that's up to you to decide if you like that or not. For me, there are some accidental touches when using it without a case, but when you're using a case, trust me, it goes away. So overall, this display is very smooth when you're scrolling around. It's very sharp as well. It also gets plenty bright enough in a dark or in a light environment. So if you're out and about in the sun, it still get plenty bright. Probably not the brightest display there is on the market, but it's still very bright in my opinion for most people. And it's also very good for watching videos. So whatever you're doing, it's gonna be a great display for that. Now there is a small cutout in the corner there for your camera. It doesn't get in the way in my opinion. I've gotten so used to camera cutouts that honestly the small one doesn't get in the way at all. And there's also an under display fingerprint sensor here. It's an optical one, so it uses light. It's hit or miss sometimes, but most of the time I will say it's pretty accurate, but it's really fast. So as soon as it reads your finger, you're getting in right away. Same thing can be said about the facial recognition. Sometimes it'll try to read my face way too fast that it misses my face, but when it does read your face, again, it's super fast getting into the phone, which is amazing. It also has a nice feature that allows you to hide your content of your notifications until your face is recognized. Super convenient and super cool. So far biometrics are good, but they can definitely be improved in their accuracy. So as far as everyday use and performance, honestly, dude, performance here is fantastic. You have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, 8 GB of RAM, and 120 GB of internal storage, which to some people might be a little low for $900 that you're paying, but it's still not too bad. I'd get a really good performing phone out of this. So all my basic stuff, such as browsing the internet, replying to texts, checking emails, just checking social apps, doing the basic stuff, it's got you covered. Even after long extended use of time and you're switching between apps and doing all kinds of things, you'll be fine. Like maybe now and then you'll get like a small delay or a small orientational delay when you're switching the orientation of your phone. But otherwise, honestly, this phone is pretty blazing fast and it's pretty reliable for the most part. You can go above and beyond if you want to. So the only above and beyond that I do is just playing some somewhat heavy games. So most of my games are pretty light, but the only heavy game that I potentially could be playing is Rocket League. Even at high settings, it's able to maintain a good solid FPS at like 60 FPS and then keep those high quality settings. The phone does warm up a little bit after like 1 round or 2 rounds, but it doesn't get to the point that it's too hot, but it does warm up, just as an FYI. And you can also multitask on here. So it's a couple of ways. One, you can do picture-in-picture like most Android phones, and I think iPhones might be able to do it as well. And it stays pretty cool for the most part as long as you're just using YouTube and a social app or something like that. But if you go into YouTube and a game, then it will warm up a little bit. And you also multitask by using your 3 fingers and swiping up and making it go into split screen mode. Now, not all apps are compatible with this split screen mode, but the ones that are the simple ones. So YouTube and Reddit, usually that's what I typically do with multitasking when I'm split screening mode. So that is nice, but I do hate that you're a little bit limited on the apps that are compatible. I'm used to with like One UI that allows you to do pretty much every app that's available. But I will say that you do find more hiccups when trying to multitask because some of the apps aren't natively meant to go into certain split screen modes, so they sometimes bug out and act weird, but that's just because the apps are being put in different dimensions and stuff like that. So that's my only complaint about multitasking, is that there is some limitation from the software, but otherwise it's still doable on here. And as far as software with Oxygen OS / Color OS, the new merged version, I never experienced the old Oxygen OS, so I don't know what to compare it to or what to expect. But for me, it's pretty simple. It's similar to the Pixel launcher, but with a little bit more customization, which I like. Not as much as the Samsung One UI, but just a little bit, which, it satisfied me. So if you go into home screen settings, you can change a couple of things that you wouldn't normally be able to change in most OSs. So the transitions and the icons. That allows you to, change your icons or take away the label, or go into your transitions and change the way it looks. But you can also do your basic stuff, such as change the wallpapers, add widgets, and move things around, which is pretty cool. And then the quick settings menu here, it's similar to Pixel Launcher and One UI. So the very top part with all the different quick settings that you have, it does remind me of One UI, but then all that padding that it has reminds me of the Pixel Launcher. So I like it and hate it. I like that it gives you smaller little quick setting menus, but I don't like that it uses a lot of padding for notifications and for when you have like Spotify running. It's kind of annoying, but that's my only complaint. Otherwise, it's fairly simple. I also do wish that the actual brightness slider was a little bit lower, just so it's easier to reach with one hand. My only other complaint is the padding on the widgets. It is a little bit annoying because you have to extend it and waste space just to get them to look a little bit bigger. Kind of annoying. And then some widgets don't align the same as other widgets, so you can't keep them even. That's just weird in my opinion. It's a little bit annoying. And then on the Google Discover page, I do like that there is a search bar at the very top. So that keeps me from having to have a search bar widget on my home screen, which is pretty cool. And then the OnePlus shelf is very convenient. It's a little bit slow when you open it with the animation, but it's still very convenient and useful. I actually use it pretty much every day. I keep my banking apps on there and then just quickly access them whenever I want to. So you can also have like other widgets if you want to, and a quote as you'd like. But I like it. I think it's not a useless feature. I think it's a pretty cool feature. It reminds me of the Edge panel of a Samsung One UI, just because I can quickly access some apps without having to go into my app drawer. But overall, the performance and the daily usage of Oxygen OS has kept me satisfied. It's given me a lot of customization, but it definitely doesn't beat the $1,000 flagship level phones, such as like an S22 Ultra or an S22 Plus. So everyone's got their own opinions, but for me, it's definitely a great performing phone. And for the price that I paid, I am more than satisfied for what I'm getting here. So as far as cameras, luckily I'm not a heavy camera user, so to me, I'm not super disappointed with the camera here. It's for the most part pretty decent. It's not bad, but it's also not going to be the best camera system you can get on the market. But starting off the front here, you get a 32 megapixel shooter, and for the most part, I don't really take many selfies, but when I do, I guess this can be okay. It's got some sharp images, but it's not going to be super color accurate with my skin. Sometimes I look a little bit too pale in my opinion, but for the most part, you know, it takes a decent selfie and it gets the job done. Video though, unfortunately, you're stuck at 1080p. So again, I don't really take many video selfies, but if you do, then you're not going to be happy that it's stuck at 1080p. Maybe you don't care, but if you want 4K, most cameras in this price range, you know, offer 4K on the front. So that is a little bit disappointing. So I do wish it was able to handle 4K on the front. As far as the back cameras here, starting with the ultra wide there, it is a pretty wide shot and it's not that bad as far as the way it looks. As long as you're in decent lighting conditions, you're gonna get a good shot. I do notice though a dip in quality and a dip in color though. Maybe some people may not notice it, but for the most part, it's a decent shot. And you can go into like a super wide shot, so it gives you like 150 degrees of view, which is pretty amazing. So if you need a super wide shot, you can do that. Gives you a regular mode and a super, like a fisheye mode, which is pretty cool, but that's there if you want to use it. And then the main camera, the 48 megapixel wide camera, is pretty good. I think it's probably the best lens on all the lenses here. So it gives you a sharp image, a pretty colorful one, especially if you're using the AI enhancements. So for the most part, it's a pretty good shot. I have no complaints. I think it gets the job done for sure. But it all depends on what kind of color profile you like. So you may not like the way that Hasselblad and OnePlus are working with the color science here. So it's up to you to decide that. For me, I think it does a pretty good job. And then you have your telephoto, which is not the greatest. It goes up to 3.3x in your standard photo mode and also standard video mode at 1080p. But the 3.3x telephoto, you know, it's okay. It's not the sharpest. It's also not the prettiest, but it gets the job done as well. And you can go all the way to 30x, but that is digital, so it doesn't look that great. It gets washed out, but you can definitely do so if you want to. As far as video, you can shoot 8K at 24 FPS, but I don't really care about that. And if you want to, you can go down to 4K 120, which is just on the main wide camera, the 48 megapixel. Then you can go down to 4K 30, which then allows you to use the ultra wide if you want to, but you can't use the telephoto. You can zoom in, but it's all going to be digital. And then you can finally go down to 1080p, and then you can finally record on all three lenses. So the ultra wide, the wide, and then the telephoto. So the telephoto, you can only record on 1080p. So I don't know, I find that a little bit disappointing in my opinion for a flagship level phone, and the price you're paying for this phone. You know, I would expect that to at least be able to record 4K 30 with the telephoto or on all three lenses. So that's up to you to decide if that's important to you. I really don't record many videos, so it's not a huge deal, but just something I would like to have if I'm paying for this phone. As far as battery life, it does come with a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and of course, it always depends on your usage. For mine, it depends on day-to-day usage. So some days, on my working days, I'll get a full day's battery in only 2 to 3 hours screen on time. And my usage, as I already mentioned earlier, it's not that heavy. It's mostly light with some heavy usage. So that's for the most part pretty good. To some people that may sound bad, so take that as you will. On my non-working days where I'm on my phone a lot more, I only get about 3 to 5 hours screen on time, and I kill the battery by like 3 p.m. So I get like a full 12 to 16 hours of battery depending on my usage. So I'll kill it by 3 to like 6 or 7 p.m. So it depends on how heavy I'm using it. And it would be bad, but luckily this comes with Super VOOC charging, and in the box, 65 watts of charging. This phone charges up in about like 45 to 40 minutes. So depending on which battery level you plug it in at. So that's amazing. I think that's pretty good. Gives you enough time to shit, shower, and grab something quick to eat. And then by the time you come back to your phone, it's fully charged, which is absolutely fantastic in my opinion. So you also have wireless charging on here, and you also have a feature that I really like. It allows you to charge your phone slowly, wirelessly, and trickle charge it overnight. And then when you wake up, it should be a full battery. So it should know and learn your like sleep patterns, or what time you usually place your phone to charge, and it will adapt to that so that it can trickle charge overnight, which I absolutely love. There's some mornings where I woke up to a 70 to 80% battery life, so that means I had to quickly plug it in, but of course it has Super VOOC charging, so I only had to plug it in for like 15 or 20 minutes, and that was fine. So again, take that as you will. I think that's pretty good and convenient for my lifestyle. If your lifestyle is like more hectic and you don't have time to charge a lot, you might not like that. So that's what you need to decide. So should you get the OnePlus 10 Pro right now? Honestly, if you can only find it at $900, I'd probably wait for a sale or spend the extra $100 or so to get either an S22 Plus or an S22 Ultra. But if you can get this phone for under $800, so $700 to $800 or cheaper, then this is a good deal and a really good choice for a phone. It's a good overall phone for the most part. So that's been it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe for more videos.